Hello, parents and players. I thought throw a quick little video to review a little bit of what I plan to do for the 2020-2021 season. I know there's a lot of questions, and given the situation, it's not easy to answer either through Zoom or we cannot have any live meetings. I'm just gonna go over some of the stuff that I plan to do next year, and that is gonna be different compared to this past season. Okay, so one of the things that I'm going to change for next year is what's called a tactical periodization program. I've been using this since like 2003. Um, with these teams, the teams last year, I used some of these concepts, but not completely. I was still using some of other methods of coaching, and the whole difference with tactical periodization is that you use the game to actually teach the game instead of teaching just movements. But it's also one of the objective of the about this program is to improve the decision making of the player. Now this is hard to understand by just actually saying, how is it different compared to somebody else. So I'm going to give you a little example right now. For example, when it comes to passing, if you look at the traditional approach of teaching passing, right? You can watch this video over here. You see players just standing in front of two cones, passing the ball back and forth. Now, one of the problems with this type of training is that the path of the ball is predetermined, the movement is predetermined, and there's really not that much tactical or cognitive training, that's what we like to say, right? So if we look at the tactical periodization, right, what it does is that it looks at the concept as passing instead of as a skill. It looks at us as a concept. Let's look at everything that can happen within passing. Where are we passing? What part of the field? Um, are you being pressed? Do you have time, space? You can use the inside, the outside, all of the different things that can make up the concept of passing are looked into. For example, here in the game, you see the same thing. The kids are still practicing passing, except that it's a two-touch max, and therefore they have to pass the ball a lot quicker. And you can see it's more dynamic because the player now can practice all different kinds of passing, different kinds of angles, speed, velocity, direction that they're trying to pass into. And therefore, this approach to coaching long term, it's going to improve the decision making of the player a lot better. Okay, so that's just that. If we go back, I'm gonna go back to that one. You see in the second video, the cognitive of development of the player is a lot stronger. The coordinating capacity, which are basically his capacity to how he moves his body, the biomechanical aspects of the game, it's more present than just passing the ball back and forth. The conditional capacity, running, change of direction, speed, all that stuff. The volitive willingness capacities, which is the desire, who do you pass to, who do you want to play with, where you want to pass the ball, the ball to, and your willingness to work. Then you have something that's very, very important in soccer, which is what we call the creative expression, capacities. Is doing a little flick in the game, passing the ball, back healing, letting the ball go through all this stuff that makes a difference when you're playing the game, because sometimes you play against teams that can actually defend well, and you have to be creative in how you dribble and how you pass the ball. So this approach takes into consideration of getting those capacities in there. The social effective is basically players are going to create little groups, or what we call little societies within the teams that they're going to play with. You have your defensive group. They got to learn how to move as a unit. You have your midfield group. You have your forwards. You have the players that are more on the right side. You got your players that are more on the left side. You got your players that are in the middle. But getting to know each other and how you play with each other makes a difference also on the performance of the player and the team. So this year I'm gonna go full force into using this approach to coaching compared to the traditional method that I've been using here and there for a while. Okay. Now the other thing that I'm gonna do next year is also use the soccer coaching school a lot more than what I did last year, and that has to do with when I was coaching last year, and I will ask the kids certain questions like what are the different phases of the game, what is attacking, what is a transition. I will get a lot of blank faces because they didn't know. And one of the things that as a player, they need to know what this concept is so that when I'm asking them something, they know how to execute it. But we are limited on the field, as you know, we meet twice a week, maybe 3 times a week. So spending time just doing this, like with a tactical board, going through all this stuff when we can actually be playing and actually doing, teamwork is going to take away from that. So I'm going to be using the soccer coaching school a lot more so that the kids can do, online videos like we did last year. But the difference is going to be um, is that on this year on the soccer coaching school, I'm going to have quizzes and exams so that I can actually test their knowledge of soccer. I might give them like a drag and drop where I'm going to tell them, okay, this player is not positioned correctly where he should be, and then they need to drag it and do it. So that way I can have an idea that they're actually understanding the concept, but not just knowing what the concept means. Because what I want is for them to understand how to play the game. Okay. The other thing is that I'm just gonna go a little bit about the soccer program that's gonna coming up next year. Is I'm gonna incorporate a strength training program, and I'm gonna do like a summer clinic, which we probably is gonna be like 2 days, where I'm gonna teach the players, how do you lift correctly? What is the proper technique of lifting weights? And how do you strength train with dumbbells, kettlebells, and all this stuff? Which, because of the pandemic, I didn't have a chance of doing it, but a lot of I always get a lot of questions from parents is can my kid do weights, because there's all this myth that surrounds strength training. But I want to spend at least 1 or 2 days where I actually teach them, this is how you squat, this is how you lunge correctly, this is how you breathe correctly, because then when they train correctly, then the program becomes more efficient and they're going to see results a lot quicker than if they're just doing an exercise haphazard, they're not doing it correctly. The other thing that I'm going to do is, it's a speed and agility summer program where I'm going to teach them, how to do proper change of direction. How do you run correctly? Because kids nowadays, they come home from school and they're in front of a computer. They have, Nintendo, Switch, all these games where they're sitting down a lot, which was different when I was growing up, and probably you guys as parents, when you guys were growing up, you were running on the street, you were riding your bike, you were running, you were jumping. So you will naturally learn how to run and how to change direction and how to be agile. Nowadays, that's different with these kids. You actually have to teach them. And I noticed a lot of kids that when I'm doing, like for example, a shuttle run with change of direction, that they don't know how to change direct, they don't know how to change direction correctly. And soccer's a game that change of direction is key. The whole game is based on a lot of change of direction. So if you learn how to do it correctly, you're going to be faster, you're going to be more agile. And that's going to make a difference between, scoring a goal or being scored a goal, because you can actually adapt to the situation of the game because it's very dynamic. Okay, so one of the ways that I'm going to do that is by using, Train Heroic, which a lot of you guys have been using it now. Okay, so what I really like about Train Heroic is that it's very easy to distribute the workouts. I can message the players, I can stay in touch with them, I can message each one, directly, or I can message the whole team. So next year, I'm gonna continue doing this, but what's gonna change is that because I want to be able to meet with them one on one and do some testing, that I can probably custom tail some of these workouts to the needs of the players compared to what I've been doing right now for the pandemic, where a lot of these programs were more generic in nature and everybody was doing it, but so I can actually adapt to some of their needs. Now, how am I going to do that? Right? So let me just go back over here to the presentation. I'm going to incorporate a little bit more testing, for example, a tuck jump test, and which is going to test muscle imbalances, right? So this one right here, this is a tuck jump test. What it allows me to do is once I do the test, I can actually see what muscle imbalances the player has. Then I can see what muscles I need to target and what are the exercises that I can recommend. But instead of actually doing it like this, I can actually send the player a workout with the specific exercise that he needs to do, which is a lot easier than just giving him this spreadsheet. And now the player is going, okay, what do I do with this? What's a plank? What's a glute bridge? And how many sets and how many reps? So this is going to help me out a lot, and this is one of the reasons I'm sticking with Train Heroic, because it's going to allow me to do this. For a long time, I've been wanting to do this. I'm a certified strength and conditioning, and I hardly get to use a lot of the stuff that I know, because I never really had the platform to do it, or or the method to doing it. So this is actually going to allow me to do a lot of this stuff. The other one is a 3015 IFT aerobic capacity. Last year I used it with both teams. What's really neat about this test is that I can actually tell a players, say here's two cones, put them 48 feet apart, and then do three shuttle runs, and in 15 seconds. So I can actually prescribe the player in the summer, all of this running that he can do, so that when they come back in August, they're going to be a lot fitter. Okay, so I don't have to start from zero like I did last year. The 300-yard shuttle run test is another one that's going to give me a profile of the anaerobic capacity. The pro jump test is, how strong they are in the lower limb. And this kind of goes in conjunction with doing the strength training, is that when we do it again, we should be able to see that test improve. The one that I really like, and I haven't used this in years, and I really like this test, and it's time consuming. It's what's called the Bankspo speed test. It's a repeated spring ability test, and what it allows me to do is to see what's the fatigue index of a player. In soccer, one of the performance key is the capacity of a player to do those little short run shuttle runs during a game. That's what gets you tired. It's not all the running, it's really the change of direction, the quick running or the jumping. That's what eventually starts getting a player tired. And then, obviously, if there's a team that's fitter than you, they'll probably score in the last 15, 20 minutes. Even in professional games, the last 15, 20 minutes of the game, that's when goals are scored. With this test, I can actually see where they're at, and then create a program to improve it so that they get better. If this improves a lot, what we call the RSA, their performance really changes. And I always remember my professor at UCF, my sports psychology professor, will always talk about that. The easiest and the fastest way to improve a player's confidence is improving their fitness. If you get fitter, you're going to be able to play better. And obviously, there's the component of the tactical and the technical work that we're going to be doing the tactical periodization. So you combine all those three things. I'm looking forward to our season. That's going to be really good for us. Like anything, if you have questions, I'm going to be calling everybody so we can have a one-on-one conversation about to review what happened last year and what to expect next year. But I'm hoping also that this video gives you an idea of what I plan to do next year, so that you're right now, everybody's wondering, what's going to happen. So, but again, once I call you, at least now you have something that to go on and ask question about. Okay, thanks.